All right, so hey you guys, I'm Peter and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about healing from sexual trauma. Alright, so before we get started, if you like the content on this page, go ahead and hit like, comment, and subscribe. Tap that notification bell so you can get all the updates and alerts. Also, if you want to know where I got my Ajna Awaken candles, I got them from Shock Therapy, and the link is in the description below. So today, you guys, we're going to talk about sexual trauma. Alright, so it's going to get real. If this is a sensitive subject for you, you know, you might as well exit. Pause the video, do whatever you got to do to get through it, because we are going to go deep. I've been putting this off for a while now because, you know, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to share this information with you all, but this is actually a part of my healing too. All right, so I've been doing a healing series. I don't know if you guys saw healing from a narcissist, healing from divorce, and healing from your past life, or healing from the past. So it's pretty much part of the healing series. And so this is surviving the predators in your family. Okay. All right, so a little bit of background on why, you know, I'm really into healing from sexual trauma. As a child, I was sexually assaulted. I was sexually assaulted by my mother's brother, my uncle, and I was molested at the age of 3, and I was continuously raped from the age of 3 on up to the age of 16. All right. You know, I was in a family that when I finally brought it to their attention, they swept it under the rug. Okay. And so that kind of led me to thinking like, hey, you know, this must not be a big deal, right? Because I'm a kid, right? But it was a big deal. It was a very big deal. And one day I told the children, some kids in my class, and you know what they did? They told the teacher, because they knew it was abnormal for a grown person to be having relations with a kid, you know. And so, you know, long story short, you know, it was a lot going on. Like, I remember child services getting involved, and I had to lie to child services because my family scared me so bad. My grandmother and my mother scared me so bad as to me being taken away and all these things happening to me, and you know, getting put with another family. I told the school that I made it up. I told the social service workers that I made it up, and I never spoke of it again. You know, my family knew it was happening. Everyone knew it was happening, but I never spoke outside of my family about it again. My grandmother, she tried her best to protect me in the best way that she knew how. She would, you know, have me pretend like I'm sleeping, or, you know, have me sleep with her so that he couldn't get to me, you know, but that only worked so much. All right. Then, you know, I started sharing these stories with males in my family, and like males my age, right? And then the males was telling me that they were going through it too, with trusted females of the family, like trusted women that our family trusted the kids around when they went off and did whatever they were doing. Some of the males in my family was also being molested. Okay. And not only were they being molested by males, well, females, they were being molested by males. So they was, you know, having to deal with it on both sides. You know, people, older men, filling out their fetishes on them, and older women filling out their fantasies on them, you know. And so as we got older, you know, we some of us became promiscuous, some of us became sheltered, some of us became kind of closed off, having issues with sexuality, things of that nature, you know. And so all of this was all that we could think of that led us to this point was the sexual trauma. All right. And so I made some notes, you know, because y'all know I'll go off track, especially with something like this delicate, because you don't want to rush this. All right. And so, like I said, it was a family like that swept things on the rug. But I want to let you guys know that, like, sexual trauma, right? It's not just rape or molestation. It's anything like dealing with a traumatic experience with your sexual, you know, your sexual part, your sexual organ, right? You know, you could be wetting the bed, right? And so I remember that I used to wet the bed, and you know, I used to get a whooping, beating, spanking, whichever term you like, for wetting the bed. And so I was traumatized because I felt like every time I, you know, went to the restroom, I was gonna get beat. Like if I had an accident, I was gonna get beat. So I was traumatized from that, right? Or, you know, you could be traumatized for when you're exploring yourselves. I remember, you know, growing up, you know, trying to explore myself sexually, and, you know, other male relatives exploring themselves sexually too, you know, in private. Like, you know, we can't say what it is because YouTube will demonetize you, right? But, you know, and their moms walked in on them. And from that point on, they, like, very closed off about who see them, you know, like, not, who see them unexposed, right? And so that is a sexual trauma. That's considered a sexual trauma because now every time someone see them in the nude, or, you know, they're kind of shy about it, you know. Well woman's exams. You go to the well woman's exam and the person messing with them tongues and they don't know what they're doing, right? Okay. And you could be traumatized from that because when you get a certain age, now we got to start checking to make sure that everything's good, right? Circumcision or late circumcision. You know, I saw a case where a young man was on the news because the doctor snipped too far and cut his stuff off. And I've seen cases to where guys get circumcised really late and have to get cut, and now they're traumatized from that. So sexual trauma could come from anything like that traumatizes you, that makes you feel ashamed of your sexuality, or makes you feel ashamed of, you know, yourself. So sexual trauma could come from anything dealing with those things. And so what I want to talk to you guys about is, I want to talk to you guys about healing that. You know, I tried therapy. You know, I went to therapy. I was still having nightmares about certain things. I remember every time I had a nightmare, I would either end up at home or in a war zone. And that let me know right there that I wasn't healed from it. I remember acting out because of how I responded to those things. I remember my demeanor around people, particularly males, because I felt like if a male was trying to, you know, overpower me, it was my job to overpower them back. So I really had an issue with that. And you guys, my husband, like when he first met me, he had talked to me about how I talk to people, because I talked at people because I vowed to myself as an adult that I would never allow myself in a vulnerable state again, because I felt like there was something, you know, a stigma associated with that, and they can just see the weakling, right? So I had to get strong, you know, but that's not the case. I was still vulnerable. The fact that I had to put those defenses in let me know how vulnerable I really was. All right. So the first thing I want to tell you of how I began my journey, I don't know about how you begin your journey of healing, but my first overall thing in order to begin my healing journey was to accept it. Accept that this has happened to me. All right. I acknowledge my anger in that acceptance. I acknowledge the emotions I felt in that acceptance. I acknowledge forgiveness in that acceptance. Like, I had to forgive myself because there was times where I you know, I blame myself for it, and we're going to talk about that later, but I had to accept that and everything that came along with that, right? The next thing I would say that will help in your healing is trying to unpack that trauma, right? Trying to unpack that trauma and those false beliefs that you put on yourself, which now I'm about to get into number 1 and number 2. And so these false beliefs that we develop because of the trauma, right? So the beliefs that you're not good enough, right? The beliefs that you're not worthy, or something's wrong with you, or you caused this to happen to you, or you dressed a certain way so you brought it on yourself, or, you know, maybe you wasn't masculine enough so they thought you was a weak man and wanted to do this to you, you know, or why did you attract that type of energy to yourself, you know? So you have to try to unpack those false beliefs that you have placed upon yourself. and release yourself from those false beliefs. All right, because the longer that you believe and identify with that stuff, the longer it's going to take for you to heal, because that's your block, right? Next, and this right here, like, listen, y'all about to get mad at me for this one. Okay, but guess what? You're going to have to forgive the predator. And not only are you going to have to forgive the predator, you're going to have to forgive everyone that enabled the predator. Because see, the predator, yes, he or she is the one that's doing everything, right? But who enabled them? Now we got to forgive mom, grandma, everybody that put you in that situation, uncle, dad, everybody that put you in this situation. You got to forgive all of them, because they enabled the predator. And they really enabled the predator once they showed the predator that regardless of how much you spoke out about it, they weren't going to do anything. So forgive the predator and forgive the people that enabled the predator. All right. Let's see. Forgive the predator. Okay. And so part of forgiving the predator, right, is not only listing the horrible, horrific things that came from that event, but you have to acknowledge the good things that came out of that event. The good things that I noticed that came out of my traumatic experience is I'm alert. I'm very strong, because I got myself strong so that I could be able to take him. That's why I ended at 16, because now I could take him, right? I'm very cautious of, I'm very well aware of the people that I allow my family around, okay? And in the beginning, it was like a little obsessive, but now it's under control, but I'm very alert. All right, so I got a lot out of that, and I learned how not to place myself in that situation again, so to speak. I develop a toughness about myself, if that makes sense. So I gained a lot out of that. Although it was traumatic, it also made me who I am and put me on this life path that I'm on right now. All right. After you forgive them, you have to find a way to release. Okay. You have to find a way to release. So you got to release this energy. You cannot allow this energy to continue to linger around your life for too much longer. Okay. And so when I say find ways of relief, I'm talking about exercise, yoga, writing those things down. What happened to you? All right. Guided meditation for sexual healing. Guided inner child meditation. All right. And these are things that I did outside of therapy, right? Because therapy is great in itself, but these are things I did outside of therapy. I took a liking to exercise. I took a liking to yoga. So anytime I'm feeling stressed out, or I'm starting, some things are replaying around in my mind, I go and I exercise, or I do yoga, or I write music, or I journal, just things like that. I do a lot of guided meditation, you guys, with intentions. I set meditation words. I set intentions every meditation to ensure that I'm doing the work. All right. So dancing, part of this release is reclaiming that sexuality. So dancing, I take a lot of pictures, so I do a lot to reclaim my body back. Wound healing. I've done yoni steams. I've done yoni pro detox. I've done yoni eggs. I've done wound meditation. All of these different things to help me reclaim my body back. Because what's of the wound is what manifests, right? Especially for us, So yeah, so I did a lot of healing work surrounding that. Next. And the reason why I put this one by itself is because this thing is so powerful, y'all. This one right here. And like I told y'all, I'm not going to fluff y'all. I'm not going to pull no strings. It's not going to be no another video unless y'all ask me some more questions. But listen, this ancestral bloodline healing. I did ancestral bloodline healing. Shout out to Rocare, because Rocare, that's my medium coach. But she's also my other kind of coach for everything else. She just don't know it. But let me tell you, the ancestral bloodline healing took me back. And so when I did this ancestral bloodline healing, I committed to my bloodline to heal the trauma, the illnesses, the sicknesses, and everything else that's going on in that bloodline. And do you know that that sexual trauma dates all the way back to slavery? And a lot of the sexual trauma dates back to how we got to me. Like my great grandfather, he was a child molester and a raper, and he was also raped. And that stuff, that's how he kind of tried to control things. That was his way of control. And so he passed that on, and then it passed on, and then it passed on, and then it passed on. But it looked like it stopped in my generation. I don't know. I've never heard anybody say that someone in my decade or my generation raped anybody, you know. But hey, who knows, right? But I know that for me and the people that I'm very close to, we don't carry it on. You know, we've been working actively to heal from that. So the ancestral bloodline healing took things back because my predator is now deceased. Okay. And during that meditation, during that that ancestral bloodline healing, he has came back to me, and now he needs my help in the ascension process. So if this is not your beliefs and all that stuff, then you don't have to listen to this part, but this is my beliefs. And so he has represented himself to me, and he needs my help in the ascension process. But he only feels comfortable enough to come to me because he knows that I have forgiven him for his role, right? And that I have completely healed from it. And now he is needing my assistance in the ascension. So when you're doing this type of work, when you're doing that real work, you're going to be faced with it head on. And you might be faced with your predator head on. And how you respond to that predator will show how healed you really are, right? All right. And so ancestral bloodline healing, y'all, I'm telling y'all, if it's like an ancestral thing, it's great to do that, to unpack all of that. Next, I'm going to say, show up for your healing, right? Show up for your healing. A lot of people just go through the motions, right? The motions of healing. I'm just going to therapy because I want to heal, but I really don't want to heal, so I'm only going to tell the therapist a little bit, right? No. Show up for your healing. I'm going to meditate, but I'm not going to go that deep. No. Show up for your healing. I'm gonna go exercise, but I'm just going to do a little warm up and then I'm going to get out of there. No. Show up for your healing. I'm going to write about it, but I'm only going to write that part. I'm only going to write a little bit. I don't want to go too deep into that because I don't want to stir up these emotions. No. You need to show up for your healing. Because until you show up for your healing, guess what's going to happen? You're going to continue to see that cycle repeating and repeating and repeating and repeating. And it's going to keep presenting itself. And not only is it going to present itself in your life, you're going to think that you're doing everything in your power to heal from this thing. And it's going to show up with the way that you interact with your kids. It's going to show up in the way that you interact with your significant other. It's going to show up on that next date. It's going to show up on your next encounter. It's going to show up when you see a woman that you think looks better than you. It's going to show up when you see a man that you feel like is in a better position than you. So if you don't show up for them healing, you're going to start seeing that stuff all around. You think that, oh, don't nobody know this going on with me. Everybody knows what's going on with you. You know why? Because you're projecting it in your actions, right? It's showing up and you don't even know it's showing up. You're not letting your son go to that sleepover because of what happened to you. And then your son feel like, dang, now I can't never go nowhere. Because your son don't understand that something happened to you, man. You're not letting your daughter, I'm guilty, wear these clothes because something happened to you. You are making things sexual that should not be sexualized. There's a difference between cautious and sexualizing everything. And so you done sexualize what your daughter's wearing because something happened to you. And your daughter ain't even think about that. First of all, too young to even think about it. And now you're projecting your fears off on this person because you're not healed. So the main thing is to show up for your healing, guys. Man, so, I mean, that's it. Until you show up for your healing, it's going to always reappear. It's going to continue to show up. All right, so I hope you guys like the content on this page. You got questions, please drop the questions down below. Comment down below. If you can relate, y'all could contact me through, if you don't want to comment on here, y'all can contact me through the links in the description, and we can unpack some things, you know. But yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed this talk. You know, this is a very sensitive subject for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and do when I do my reflective meditation tonight, I'm gonna do some little concentration and everything, just make sure everything's all together. All right, and I'll talk to y'all later.